we are for another episode of Lisa Ann's Backstage Convos, and today I bring you a friend. We meet people in life for many reasons, for inspiration, for motivation, for laughter. Joanna Angel encompasses everything you could ever want in all of your favorite people combined in one beautiful spirit and human. Joanna, thanks for joining me today.
I'm going to cry. That's a really beautiful statement.
It's
Thank
true.
you. Thank
and
you.
I'm so glad that we live closer and we're starting to see each other more. But
I know. Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you love this city.
Yes.
You know, and yeah, and there's so much we can.
I think we
together.
both,
Yeah.
you know Joanna from the industry, a savvy businesswoman who really flipped a company, which is something nobody really does in this industry now, hosting a podcast with her husband, Aaron, you may know as Small Hands, runs marathons. Let's not forget about that big one. Has been an author multiple times as well. Joanna, all the things that you've been involved in, and now you're here in New York with this whole new life, right? You feel different. You're not sitting in traffic. What's been the most dynamic thing about this big cross-country move for you?
It's been really surreal. Like I always loved New York, always. And in our jobs, we get to travel everywhere. And no matter where I've gone, I've always said like that, I love New York. It's my favorite city in the world, it's like New York has always been this place where it's like, I was always almost there. It was almost like this tease. I grew up in New Jersey, so people are always like, "Oh, you're from New York. What part?" And I always say, "I'm from the part of New York called New Jersey."
And see, there's the laughter, because I'm going to tell you something. Joanna and I were in Miami in July, and we got into this conversation about us being the two people that are aggressively using Chat GPT.
Oh my God.
And I love the fact that you use Chat GPT to get jokes.
Yeah, all the time. I don't even, what joke did I even ask?
You asked it something about me and it was so funny,
Yes,
the response.
I don't even remember what it was. I ask Chat GPT like questions every day.
And it's crazy because I use Chat GPT to like write my title and my description for my podcast, to write my social media posts. I never thought about using it for fun shit, and then you turned me onto this.
Yeah. The other day, one of my friends is pregnant, and I asked Chat GPT what they should name their child. I'm sending them screenshots. I don't know. They're gonna kick me off one day.
As famous as you are, and as well as everybody thinks they know you from the many years that you've been in front of the camera and doing all these appearances, I'm not sure everybody knows how fucking funny you are.
Thank you. That really actually means a lot to me. I do love to make people laugh, and even when I'm going through like a stressful time, I think anyone in my life knows the best way to cheer me up is like, let's laugh about it. It's
Agreed.
always been my source of healing, is laughter.
It's the best approach.
It is. Yeah. If you can laugh at pain, you can it just has you kind of deal with the world in different ways.
In a lighthearted way.
Yeah. But I grew up in New Jersey, and I always wanted to like move to New York. I remember I wanted to go to NYU, and it was just insanely expensive. So I didn't wind up going there, and I wound up going to Rutgers. I came into the city all the time. I lived in northern New Jersey growing up. My dad worked in New York City. I would sometimes, I don't know, he showed me how to use the subway at a young age. I'd take the bus to Port Authority. I knew the whole MTA system. I would go to see shows, like a lot of bands and stuff like that.
Because he worked in the building right across from the New York Public Library.
Yeah, it's crazy.
By Bryant Park, like the prettiest place.
Yeah, the slanty building.
The slanty building that stands out that you
building.
see in movies. You're like, I know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
Right by the library.
Yeah,
My dad used to work there.
Yeah, he used to work there. And I would, sometimes go with him to work. And yeah, he would be like, okay, well, here's how, like, he would show me like maps and be like, here's where you can go and hang out, which is crazy. Think about it. Kind of a different time then. But
It was a different time, but also it made you fiercely independent.
Yeah.
And not afraid to be out walking in the city
and we
by
didn't
yourself.
even have cell phones or anything back then, And then I went to school at Rutgers, and then I just was very like, okay, after I graduate, I'm going to move to New York. And then I did wind up moving to Brooklyn for like a few years, but as my career kind of took off, I wound up, going back and forth all the time from New York to LA and New York to LA. And I never liked LA. It's like I was so happy when I made it to Brooklyn, and then it's like I had to keep leaving, and I had to keep leaving. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to make it work. And in its origins, Burning Angel was like a very New York centric company. We shot movies. But over time it just became inconvenient and silly. And New York and the rents you pay, and it's not like a city like if you live in Tallahassee or Pittsburgh or something where you can like have an affordable rent and not be home very often. Like if you're paying a New York price to live,
you want to be there.
You want to be there, and you want to be part of the making
friends and getting out in the restaurants.
I know. And when I realized I was at the point where I was home for maybe 5-6 days a month, I was like, it's time to go. I was very I always was like, I'm going to be back one day. I'm going to be back one day. Like, this is where I want to be. And at a certain point that started to seem very unrealistic, being a director and just everything I did was just so intertwined with the LA porn community.
Right.
And every time I'd go back to New York, I'd be so sad. I would really look forward to dancing at Sapphire, and I would try to stretch the trip out as much as possible. When me and, my now husband, when very first started dating, and we started to get close, I even said to him, I need to take you to New York. You won't really know me until we go to New York City together. And he said it made sense. On the way home, he's like, I understand you so much better now, you're not a California person.
No.
And, I lived in LA for many years. I wound up buying a house there. And once I did that, I was like, I'm probably never going to move back to New York, but I can always go. And then, over COVID, everything just changed. And after I sold my company, and just my whole life changed. And at a certain point, I realized I don't have to be here anymore. And this is a place I came to for work and to accomplish certain things, and those things are done. So I now live about half a mile away from where I lived 14 years ago. Okay. And when I first came back, it's so weird. It feels like I left the house to go to work and now I'm home, and it almost feels like, and I'm going to some of the same bars and restaurants and even seeing some of the same people, some of the few that still live here that I used to see 13, 14 years ago.
Comforting.
And it feels like I blinked and had a really weird dream that I became a porn star. And here I am.
And I'm awake now, a block away.
Yeah.
Only a block away.
It's like I'm right back where I started, It's like I went around to just come right back, And
what you said there.
It feels very surreal.
About.
And it's almost like I'm just never going to be a real grown-up or something, And I almost was a real grown-up. In LA, I had a home. I had a driveway. I was like, I can't believe I'm moving from a 4-bedroom home in the suburbs to an apartment with no washing machine and my 40s,
But even crazier, I had the same. So I made my transition maybe a year before you, and I had that same thing. I was sitting at the park across from my place one day, and I'm like, you moved here to get in the business.
Yeah.
All your friends live other places. And when you're in New York, my little studio apartment that was so tiny, like a little hotel room, I was happier than when I was in my whole house. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is and it just hit me like that. Your mission is accomplished. And now you get to be somewhere where you're inspired. You've always been inspired by New York.
I've always been inspired by New York. It always kind of just made me feel okay to be a weirdo, grown-ups here don't act like real grown-ups. And actually, Lisa, I really do remember over COVID, I was doing weekly interviews on the Fleshlight Instagram.
Yeah.
And I do remember when I was interviewing you and you were in your New York apartment over COVID. And I do remember being like very like jealous, like jealous in the sense I was like, and I think other people felt this way. I actually remember reading an article about it. I felt like when I would read everything about the chaos here over COVID, and I'm just like in the suburbs where it almost felt like
It wasn't happening.
it almost felt like it wasn't happening, which to some people sounded like a blessing, aside from like the supermarket being like pretty weird. Like, like it's like I would cry when I would see people banging on pots and pans, at 6 p.m. And it really felt like I was like
You're missing out.
Missing out on something, even if it was just to be here and complain about it or something. But
because it really feels like a community in the city that's very different. Everybody's very connected. Even if you take normal walks and you walk by a building where there's like a door guy or somebody that's outside, you become friendly with strangers in New York. You do not do that in LA.
I know. I never talked to my neighbors.
Oh, we all talk to each other.
Ever.
It's like a dorm in my building. Are you free for a half an hour for tea? Yes, let's sit out on my patio. Should I come to your apartment? You come into mine. And I have a whole route that I walk to the post office. I know every single door guy's name at the building next to the post office, and I stop and chat.
Yeah.
Something you do here.
I know.
You're just so much more human connected when you're walking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or taking a subway or taking a bus. There's just something.
There's something very just mentally healthy, I think, for me, of just being somewhere, where like to walk and do errands and to just, I don't know, to walk somewhere to get my coffee.
I love it.
And some people, I just feel like dream of a life where they have lots and lots of space and they're alone, and I get it. That's totally, and I thought that was my dream.
I think in LA, you
start to convince yourself.
You want to have a lot of space because everybody else does, and you feel like you need to get away from everybody, so you're going to have your own yard, your own space.
Right.
Then you're like, I use barely any of all of this.
I realized when I was moving, like extra bedrooms, just means an extra storage room, and like I
extra
felt
closet
like
to fill.
And I realized when I was moving, like, and getting rid of stuff, there's so much stuff I just don't use that just starts accumulating. Like I think it's healthy for my form of ADD to be in a place where it's like, if I don't use something here, it's got to go. Whatever
it's got to go.
Is.
And when you're in an apartment, what I love too about not having as much space, I find it easier to keep tidy.
Oh, completely.
Because you can't leave shit out.
You can't.
It'll look a mess.
I know.
It will look a mess if you just a couple of things.
But if it is a mess, it can be clean in an
30
hour.
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see everything from my arm's reach.
If you lose something, you can find it. You can find it. There's only so many places it can be. If you lose something in a house, like, it's gone. You just have to buy a new one.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
If it's a shirt, things get lost in the laundry, whatever it is.
You moved here yourself and you're married. You bring your husband, who I feel is so Brooklyn and is so in his element
really
here.
Look, people are like, wow, he's like, this is going to be a big change for him. I'm like, LA wasn't his home. San Diego was his home. He moved to LA for me and really, when his porn career was taking off too. LA was never a place that, was home, but San Diego was his home. And San Diego and New York are very different, but they're both cities, and
where
I
you
feel
can
like
walk things.
And I felt like when we first started dating, his life in San Diego was similar to a New Yorker's, with just much different weather,
Many more seasons.
Yes.
But it's the perfect fit for him. And now you and him have embarked on something new. You went from performing together and doing movies together, which you still shoot for your OnlyFans and do things.
And stuff.
But you now host a podcast.
We host a podcast.
As a couple.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. I love it so. I've been a guest.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it. Did not know that we were going to have some conspiracy issues over a post, but makes perfect sense.
For the record, you were in the first MILF movie.
In porn. Yes. Even though Stifler did say it, Stifler's mom, the thing, but you were talking about porn.
Yes, I was talking about porn. I think that was pretty clear.
It was very clear.
Yeah. Like Jennifer Coolidge doesn't have to be offended. You know?
No one has to be offended.
She was not, in she didn't have sex with the
when
pool
I went
guy.
to look at that person that left that message, I couldn't find them because I realized, oh, I blocked that person a long time ago, most likely because they've left a ton of weird comments under my shit too. So
Yeah, it was very strange.
What's this been like for
anyway.
you two going in and preparing to do a podcast, which is similar? You're on camera, you're talking, but your flow is so good together. And that's what I think the chemistry of a couple that knows each other's cadence, one sense of humor, the other. What's it been like for you two, like on your conversations after you do an interview?
You know, sometimes it took a little bit. We actually have a few episodes that we shot that went in the trash at first. I think it is hard to have a co-host that you know very well, because sometimes it's like you want to tell a story, but you're like, you know this story. Why am I telling you this story? So I've actually found that both of us like save things to not tell each other till the podcast. You know, sometimes we'll now be talking at home and it's like, oh, today you know what? I'm going to save it, you know?
I love that so much.
We don't want it to be like ungenuine, but then
it's like when somebody starts catching up with you that's coming in and you're like, no, save that for the podcast.
Yeah.
They start telling you too much. The second time, it's not going to be as good.
Exactly. So I don't want to do that. And yeah, it's been good. I think we've had to learn. I guess the number one complaint, everybody's like, oh, you stop talking over people. That's just, you know, what I do sometimes. But, you know, I get excited sometimes and I realize like
you'll get a lot of that. You get a lot of feedback.
Everybody likes to comment on that. I have found, because I've been reading a lot of comments on podcasts now, and I'm like, you know, people always antagonize women when they talk over someone on a podcast, but they never do it to men. And like men do the same thing, but there's just something about the world where like it's not okay for a woman to talk too much, but like a man that talks too much, it's okay. Something I've realized across the board.
It's also in sports.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there'll be one female anchor on a show with like 4 men. It'll be a live stream and I'll be reading the comments, and it's only when she overtalks. Meanwhile, the guys are yelling on top of each other all the time and they pick her out of the crowd.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
It's like women are just supposed to, you know, be quiet. And it's not, it's like other women do it too. They're not going to insult the man. They're only going to insult the woman, you know? And I've realized this in podcasts across the board. I started reading just comments on lots of different podcasts, and it just seems to be very common. But I'm not saying I don't interrupt people. I know I interrupt people, and anytime, look, when people leave comments, good or bad, I always listen to them, especially now, you know, when the podcast is still growing. You know, there's not like thousands of comments.
Right.
Like I can still, you know, read through them.
It's healthy feedback.
Yeah. And people are genuinely listening to it, you know, and it's been really fun. I think the podcast world is very exciting right now.
I do too.
It's been, you know, I think there's been a lot of really cool, unique things happening at this time that have really integrated porn with the mainstream world. You know, like you've been in the industry a long time, longer than me, you know, you're there before me. And I've been in the industry a long time, and this is a very, very unique era where the industry is not even really the industry. You know what I mean? It's like the world, like,
yeah.
You know, and I've really enjoyed, I mean, in the past year or so, it's like I will go on trips and I will shoot content with other creators, you know, that have never stepped on a porn set, and they are like more popular.
Yeah.
Or as popular as like all the biggest stars. Like that's like crazy. It's unheard of.
Yeah,
you know?
They can get famous from their Instagram. They can get famous for YouTube. They can TikTok. Like there's so many more mediums now to get yourself out there. And what I think is great about podcasts is I've become fans of people that I never knew existed, or maybe I knew they existed, but whether it was a joke that they told or their lighthearted energy, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this person. Like, I'm going to follow this person. Oh, I'm going to support all of their stuff. You know what I mean? Like, make sure I like their posts and see what they're up to. And supporting stuff is about also helping people raise money for good causes, which is something you do every year when you run the New York Marathon.
Yeah, this is going to be my second year running the New York Marathon. I can't believe it's coming up so soon.
It's November, right?
Yeah.
It's Exotica weekend,
right? It is
right?
Exotica weekend. So I'm only going to go to Exotica on Friday.
Smart. You still get to be there.
I know. I was going to do Friday and Saturday, and I'm like, no, what? Because of me, I'm so scatterbrained. I forgot to sign up for my like ferry time, and I signed up late, and now the only time left is 5 a.m. I'm like, okay, it's okay.
Yeah, but it also, you don't want to be on your feet all day before a marathon.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just gonna do Friday at Exotica, and then I'll have Saturday to do my marathon preparation, eat some pasta and stuff. But I am fundraising. All the money goes to breast cancer research. Team Baldwin. You can read all about it. It's in all my links are at myjoanna.com. And links to anything. Links to my podcast. Links to the books that I wrote. Links to my marathon fundraiser.
So that means, everybody, the Exotica date is Friday, November 3rd, but most likely you're going to see Joanna before that. That's going to be Saturday, October 28th, because Joanna is going to be right here at Sapphire 39.
Exactly.
And I'm going to come dressed for Halloween, something I have not done in years, and I am going to do it. I haven't. I don't, unless I do an event, I really don't leave the house on Halloween. I'm very afraid of people. You know this about me.
Yeah, I know.
And when they put masks on, I'm twice as afraid.
No, I mean,
but here I'll feel safe, so I'm going to come in.
Come to Sapphire. Yeah, I have a costume that I'll wear on stage. We can,
I'm dying to get somebody to go as Mr. and Mrs. Met. They're my favorite mascots in the New York area. I love mascots. Wear that big baseball hat. I've looked up the costumes. They're not cheap. And you got to find a partner that wants to go with you. You know what I mean?
Lisa,
but that would be super cute in here for me to walk in with the big baseball. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, I'll be like, what?
So you all can remember to donate. You've got time.
Yeah, you've got time.
How do you prepare for a marathon?
Oh, you get up and run. You got it. That's it. You
don't train beforehand because you're running regularly now.
I'm running regularly. Yeah. I mean, look, there's different goals for people. If you're trying to qualify, if you're trying to hit a certain time, which I'm not doing any of that. I mean, this is something I do for fun. I don't even consider it like a race because I'm not going to
try to win.
I'm not trying to win. I'm not going to be anywhere close to a winner. For me, it just feels like a group run, like a big group run that kind of feels like a big weird party where every kind of person is there. You've got there was an older couple and I'm in Corral 5 or Wave 5. That's where you're the first timers or whatever.
Okay.
That's
fair.
The non-athletes,
right.
Whatever. The first wave is all the Olympic, whatever, and then
people that travel around and do them everywhere.
Well, no, people who are sponsored by Nike and stuff. Yeah, the people that travel around and do whatever. Yeah, then time qualifiers. But anyway, I'm in the one where it's and everyone else, whoever, and you just get the most insane group of people. I remember before the marathon started and we're all running in a group. There was an older couple there. I think they were in their later 70s, and they just walk it every year. Aww. They just walk it. They say it takes them 7 or 8 hours, and they just walk. They just hold hands and walk. And
that is so
I started
cute.
Crying. Yeah, and they said they do it every year.
And it's got to be really social for them because walking, everybody's going to pass them.
Yeah.
So everybody chats with them.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. And then I had another guy in a tutu, juggling, I don't know if you know this. There's a guy that ran the marathon. He wasn't in mine. I mean, I wish I passed him, but he ran it with a pineapple on his head. Do you know the whole marathon? No. He ran it with a pineapple. He's like a celebrity. You can look him up. Apparently he's going to do it this year with a watermelon, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. There's there's people doing it with photos on their shirt of a relative or friend who passed away, somebody who just lost 50 pounds and this is their final thing, there's just every kind of person doing it, and somebody said that, and you're a sports person, so you will appreciate this. When I was training and you start to meet other runners, and runners are all strange people, all different kinds of people. I remember one of the heads of a running group I ran with, he said, this is the only athletic event where amateurs are doing the same exact thing and have the same exact track as professionals. Imagine if everyone who liked football could play the Super Bowl,
Sure.
You're just running behind them, but you're doing the same thing. You're all running the same route. Yeah. You're doing the same exact thing. They're just doing it a lot faster than you. So this is the one sport
where everybody's
that could
everybody's
exist.
welcome.
Everybody's welcome to just come in and do it, you know? When you think about that, like, and you have, you know, people who are literal, you know, Olympic athletes, and this is their job. They run, you know, for a living. People pay them to do it to everything. And that's pretty crazy when you think of it.
It's a very social thing. Like a lot of
yeah.
people, like I have a girlfriend that goes not to run, but she just likes to be one of the cheerers on the side
Oh, well,
because there's forever people there.
Yeah, my dad used to take me to see the New York Marathon growing up, and I used to be like, "Why are we cheering for strangers that are?"
And
running?
now you love those
I know,
people.
yeah, but you know, you get really excited.
Yeah.
There's very good, like Marathon Day in New York City is like the happiest
I
energy. You know, you've got. I talked to a guy. I met him somewhere along the way. You know, you start like running next to people, and you're with them for like a half mile or so, and then you might meet up with them again later.
And this isn't something you did when you were in California.
No. You know, and I actually would go, first of all, running in California, especially in the valley, like you're passing what? You're passing like very little. Here's the thing. When I was training for the marathon, you just run all over New York. I feel like I have run everywhere you can possibly go in New York because you're trying to find New York City is small.
Yeah.
So you need to start doing, you know, in training, like you start running 10, 15, 17, 18 miles. Like it's hard to find 18 miles to do. So you're really like
Weaving in
getting
and out.
creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like,
Going
okay,
over the
I'm going to go
bridge.
over this bridge.
Yep.
You know what? I'm going to go to this side of Queens before. I've never seen it. I've run like all the outskirts of Brooklyn, all the outskirts of Queens. You know,
Great way to learn your way
it
around.
really, yeah. And you really see everything. And I just, you know, it's like I'm so in love with New York. Like I remember one day running, I have this one route that I like to go to where I just run over the Williamsburg Bridge and then I go all the way through the Lower East Side, through the East Village, you know, to like where Central, you know, around Central Park. And then I go over the Queensboro Bridge and then I loop all the way back to Brooklyn, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it's like 12 miles or something. And I remember like what other city, like in a 10-mile radius, can you pass like everything from like, you could live your whole life in these 10 miles.
Yeah.
Like you could be born, go to school, have a job, you know, you could like be
There's arenas, there's all kinds of things, there's theaters. And, you know, I don't think there's anywhere in LA where you could consistently run like that without either running into a dead end because there's a freeway.
Right.
An area that you wouldn't feel safe running in, a surface that didn't like here. We have sidewalks, we have some paths by the water, but there are a lot of runners here because you see it regularly. There are people that just make their own way. They don't need to go in Central Park. They're just like on the streets. They're doing their thing.
I like running through the streets, and to start my run in like Brooklyn and to like, then you're running past like the Fendi and Cartier store in the Upper East Side. And then you're running past like all these like small, like
bodegas. Yeah.
You know, it's just like you really, I run like past the UN. Like it's so crazy. You're just like, no, I'm just running past the UN today. And like,
so this has been something
really fun.
Else that you added into your life here. It's something that you can do whenever you want. You're not held back by weather. You know, I mean, look, you're not going to go out there when it's pouring like it was last weekend, but when you're in New York, you deal with the weather.
You deal with the weather, yeah. Yeah, I hope, like, you know, a few people have told me there's always that one year where it rained on the marathon. I'm like, oh, that would really suck. Well, you know, if it does, it does.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal.
But you're not alone in it. Yeah. Everybody else is dealing with it too.
Everybody else is dealing with it. It drizzled a little bit last year, and it was actually very nice.
Refreshing.
Like, oh, okay. I was like, I'll take it. Nice.
And it's at a good time of the year.
Yeah.
Because it's not too cold yet. It's definitely not hot.
Yeah.
So you'll get nice fall weather. You mentioned your books.
Oh,
You've written two.
I've written two. It's so weird. It feels like a different lifetime ago that I wrote them.
Because it was a long time ago. I can still picture me sitting for the first one in front of my fireplace in Studio City doing my cover-to-cover read and texting you that I was doing the cover-to-cover read. Where did your writing come from, and do you think you'll write again?
I am like, I guess, writing all the time in some way or another. I was always a writer. I mean, that was what I guess when you asked me if you would have met me in high school and you said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd be like, a writer. I used to go to a lot of like writing courses. I used to actually like have, I used to go to like open mic nights and like do poetry and stuff.
I love this so much.
Yeah, I used to do that when I was in high school and sometimes in college too. I was part of all these writing clubs, and creative writing was my like concentration. And I actually remember I had like my English teacher was, I guess like a mentor, and he had written some books, and I was like, I want to be a writer. What should I do? Like after college or whatever. And he's like, the best way he's like, if you just try to be a writer, like you're not going to have anything to write about. He's like, you should just go out and live, and then you'll be able to write. And I was like, well, that really fucks up my plan.
But that was
really
beautiful advice.
Yeah.
Do you remember Judy Blume?
Yeah.
Okay,
course,
so
yeah.
we read all of her books when
Yeah.
we were younger. So during the pandemic, the first thing I did was signed up for masterclass because they had like an unlimited, you could buy one, get one. So I gave one to Kay. I'm like, let's start watching all of these. And she had like a 6-part series on being a writer. So I was like, first I'm going to watch all the writer ones, right? And she talked about the fact that if you're in a city like New York and you've got on headphones and you're not paying attention to your surroundings, you'll never be a good writer. She would sit at a diner and just watch all the people's conversations going on and always had a notebook with her and would be writing notes for these stories that she was planning on telling and how she was going to build it. It was fantastic watching her, but it's true. She talks all about people. You have to live life and you have to be experiencing life to write.
Yeah, it's true. And like really everything all the characters I had came from, different people I met over the years and stuff like that. People keep asking me like, when are you going to write a biography? And like, I don't know if I'd want to do that. I liked writing fiction, and I feel like
you're really good at writing fiction.
I enjoyed it.
It's fun for you.
I feel like in this line of work, we do, especially with the podcast and being on social media, like we do spend a lot of time talking about ourselves. And it's like, I don't really want to sit down and talk about myself. And I feel like at this point, I'm like, I've told a lot of stories. I know everybody.
I've done a lot of
hear.
interviews. Everybody knows how I got in the business.
Yeah. And like, what you guys want to really, I feel like if I was going to do that, I would want to be like, oh, like in my 80s or something as like a last, whatever. Who knows?
But you love writing fiction.
I do.
Because you're such a good storyteller, and that's not something everybody else is good at. And it's funny you just said that about talking about ourselves. This is why I love sports so much, because when I watch these games, nothing matters about me.
Yeah.
That guy got injured,
healthy.
and then it hurts my emotions because I have him on one of my teams, and so I'm emotional. Like, it gives me all the feels, but none of it is about me.
And no, that's great.
It's an outlet for me.
Yeah.
It's like Sundays from 1 p.m. till 10 p.m. I am
like
on my big
on
chair
what they're doing. Yeah.
watching everybody else's shit. I don't think about myself once. I don't look at Twitter. I don't do any of that. And it feels good.
Yeah. That's why I enjoyed writing fiction. And
your 2 books were titled.
I know, it's so funny. I said one of the titles wrong there. So it was Night Shift and Club 42.
Night Shift and Club 42. And where can people get them?
They can get them on Amazon. And they are choose your own adventure erotic novels.
And they are
Very
amazing.
niche,
And if they buy one on Amazon, would you sign it if they brought it to see you on October 28th at Sapphire 39?
Of course, I would absolutely do that. And and at Exotica or anywhere, it's cool. I feel like every Exotica or, signing that I do at an adult show, there will always be like 2 people that bring the book, and they're really special to me. I'm like, thank you. Like there's always like a lot of people, they bring those stacks of pictures, they bring, DVDs, they bring all sorts of stuff.
A book is different.
A book
it's
is
so personal.
So I get, when I see the person online holding the book, I'm like, yes.
I know.
Thank you so much.
We have
a different relationship.
Yeah. And for me, it's like my neighbor was just in my office because I did this big project in there last weekend, and she came in to check it out, and she saw all of my shipping material in my closet. She's like, how often do you ship? I said, well, I probably fill a book order a day, like 5-6 days a week.
Right.
And she's like, you do it yourself? I go, it is the least profitable thing I do, but it is the most joy. Every step I take walking to the post office and dropping it in and saying happy reading as I put it, there's just something about somebody wanting to read what you wrote.
Yeah.
That feels so personal.
Very special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really special.
It made me really just, every time I'm in a bookstore or even in the airport passing books, I'm like, God, even like it's a lot of work to write a book. It is definitely the most undervalued form of entertainment.
It is.
As the writer's strike, like people, like it took me a year to write each of those books. I mean, that's 2 years of my life, and most people, take more than that. Like, it's so
But you
much
developed
work,
a lot of characters, and it's also something where you've got to be hyper focused. Like when you're writing, you can't just dabble at it for 30 minutes and then go do
No.
something else. So like for me, when I was writing my first one, I knew if I had other projects going on, I just wouldn't get to it that day.
Yeah,
Because my
yeah.
head had to be in it. It was something that I really wanted to be in that specific.
I mean, the last like 4 months, both times, which of course I procrastinate
Crammed it?
everything.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I had a year. Okay, I had a year to write both books. I didn't really start them until about.
But you got
4
them
months.
done. That's
I
the thing.
wrote
It
some
doesn't matter.
outlines, But yeah, the last 4 months, both times, it was like I was living. Nobody saw me. I would just wake up in the morning.
I love the
and
silence of writing, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm writing-
I kind of start to lose my mind. I drink like 75 cups of coffee and like.
Your stomach starts to be like, did I have food or water yet? What is going on?
I would actually make sure this is like such an LA thing. I would find a coffee shop to go to that, like, I lived in the Valley, and I would find one to go to in like downtown LA, somewhere where I knew I was stuck there because I couldn't leave
back on the road 'cause
till
of
after
traffic.
traffic. Yeah. So I would leave like a little after traffic in the morning, and I'm like, I am trapped here. I can't do anything but write. I can't go anywhere. So that would be, I was like, I can't leave here till
That's
like
discipline.
9 p.m.
That's
And that's what I would do. So I would just like go to all these coffee shops in in West Hollywood or
I
downtown
think you
LA.
could write a really fun book about the
trapped.
creative people that you've met running.
Yeah, right?
But I do see you
yeah.
writing fiction. I completely understand the depths of, an autobiography. It doesn't thrill you. You already know your story.
I
You want
know my
something that
story,
brings you
and some
joy.
stuff like it's like I don't know if I want to retell it or
I understand
or
that too.
relive it.
I understand that too.
I don't have the need to like get certain things off my chest. Like I don't have anything bottled up. Like we live in a world where we can get things off our chest.
Very, very
we
easily.
have too much access to getting things off our chest.
What day does your podcast release?
On Wednesdays.
Okay, every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday. Yeah.
Just the tips?
Just the Tips XO is our Twitter and our Instagram. You can find all of our links on our Instagram. On my Instagram is just at Joanna Angel. My Twitter is at Joanna Angel. You can find all my links on myjoanna.com.
And last
Yeah.
but not least, one quick chat.
Oh,
The love of liquid death and the fact that you brought, this
yeah,
as a fairy, a water fairy.
yes, I'm a professional water fairy. Yes.
And, I talk about it a lot with the environment, the fact that aluminum is infinitely recyclable and also the one thing that we recycle in the United States. So for those of you out there, you see Joanna drinking it, you see me drinking it, think about getting it for yourself and being one person that contributes less plastic to our environment. And I'm going to keep laughing with Joanna for the night. You're going to come in and see her at Sapphire 39 on October 28th. And then on that following Friday, she will be at Exotica for just one day. So you all have to get there that Friday night.
Get there on Friday.
And bring your books because you're going to order them from Amazon. Get there on Friday, and then we will be celebrating you. And make sure you hit that link on Joanna Angel on Instagram and donate to Joanna's running of the marathon. Thank you for joining me here today.
I'm so excited. I'm excited for you to teach me another
little bit more
lesson
football.
on football.
Yay! Thank you for joining us for another episode of Lisa Ann's Backstage Convos.